Hey guys, my name is Tim. I'm the master mechanic at Zeiten BMW Mobile Services, and today we have 2012 BMW X5 xDrive 35i with the N55 motor. What are we gonna do is replacing the whole valve cover. It's exactly the same procedure for the valve cover gasket, of course, but I'll explain why we're gonna be doing the valve cover today and not just the valve cover gasket. Let's get to it. To start off, we're just gonna remove some plastic, and of course we'll start with the engine cover, which is just popping up. So I just pull it straight up and out of those rubber things. Some insulation here, old of course. I'm gonna remove this vent duct, and you see here there's a pin. So you just gotta push it straight up, straight forward, and this will free right here. But it's also two in the back of these things. So you push one, as I did right here, and it pops off. And there is another one on the other side, and it's just it's off. So there you go. And right now, let's actually check out basically how can you spot the valve cover gasket or the valve cover leak itself. If you look around the valve cover, you can see this metal piece right here. It's the head, and if it's oily, well, it's usually not in this spot. It's usually in the spots right down there. It's really hard to see. Once we remove this pipe, we will be able to see more clearly. But it's right there. The most common symptom on this leak is the oil leaks down to the exhaust manifold, and it burns, it smokes. You can smell it inside the cabin. It gets sucked into the cabin through the air ducts, and it's also smoking from this area. People say the oil burning, but it's not actually burning like fire. So that's what exactly happens is the catalytic, well, not catalytic, exhaust manifold gets up to 800 degrees Celsius, temperature of it, and once the oil gets in there, it starts smoking a lot. So it's kind of burning, but not exactly. So that's what happens. Now we're gonna remove the air filter box. We have some attachments here. They're just pull up and remove those rubber things right here, the wiring harness, and of course one clamp that usually people forget to tighten and nothing happens, so not a big deal at all, turns out. And then it's just pops off. Air filter box out. Now we get to removal of this plastic, and one thing I want to stress out a lot, those pieces right here, they're very brittle. It doesn't matter how careful you are, if they are about to be gone, they will just crack and fall apart. Usually on most of the X5s, 95% of the X5 of this year's, those things are broken, cracked, like just hanging in there on the rubber, and that's pretty much it. So first thing we're gonna do is remove the rubber. There we go. Now we have those four 13mm, it's basically clips, so all you need to do is just do 90-degree turns on all of them to kind of unlock them, and this will allow you to take this out. Exactly the same on the other side. To my surprise, basically those pieces still stay kind of intact, which is, it's very rare, trust me on that one. Like, I've seen hundreds of those cars and it's all gone in there. So in order to remove those pieces, we will start with those Torx 25 bolts. It's 2 in here, and there's also 2 inside right here. So we'll start with those.
To push it too hard. Alright, let's get another one. It seems like it might have been glued to all of those.
Alright, so let's get it right here. What do we have inside? So first of all, we gotta push this wire out of this plastic piece. And there is a Torx 25 right here, that's the one. And there's another one right under the motor for the wipers. So here's one. And here's another one. They're all very visible. There is nothing hidden in here. You just gotta know which one to take off. And the only thing is left to remove is those 2 10mm bolts right here. As you can see, one here and one there. The one last thing, as you can see right here in this corner, there is a clip attaching. Hold on a sec. And there we go. So this clip is pretty standard. Just like that. Now we can move it out of the way. I just want to see if it's kind of together or not. In order to remove this side, the one we actually do need, we'll have to remove this air filter box. This is for cabin filters. There's 2 in here, so I'll start with this 13mm again. One right there inside, and one right there on the other side. So 3 in total. 1, 2, 3. Also, there is a connector, of course. Push and release. Nothing new. And now we're able to simply move it out of the way. As you can see, air filters right here, cabin filters. And now we have access for exactly the same thing. So 2 Torx 25 bolts right here, then 10mm, 10mm, and the clip. So 10, 10, the clip, and 2 Torx 25. Okay guys, so here's what I'm talking about. You see this gap? It usually separates all the way on both of them, and it's just hanging in there. That's how it cracks. That's how those pieces separate one from another. Now everything is removed, so I'm ready to take them out entirely, but you gotta be very careful because that is not a simple task, kind of, if you don't want to keep those things intact. It's exactly the same thing happening on the other side. There we go. Yeah, there is some sort of glue in here. That's how they separate. Those pieces, though, they are supposed to be separate, but there is some sort of glue. I guess it's been applied on a previous repair, most likely, because they are falling apart. This one falls apart right here in this crack. know, it's like, it is what it is. Nothing we can do about it, basically. Now we're gonna remove this bar, reinforcement bar. Those are 15mm bolts, one long, one short. Oh, well, actually both are long. And we're gonna remove those to remove the bar. That goes one. And another one. Now we're gonna remove those vacuum lines. Basically, this one will be the hardest. What are you gonna do is, like, I have my pick tools right here, so I'm just gonna put one in the back. It's a regular BMWs push and release connectors, but there's just not enough room in here, so this is how you do it. You see, now it's easily movable out of the way. I can remove my pick tool now, and it's out. How you do it is you put your pick tool right in here somewhere on both sides, and that's releases is basically from the valve cover. So one is gone. The other one is simple, so you supposed to be, at least you just squeeze it on both sides and take it off. Or not. This one is hard, but once again the same tactics works. Like, I'll demonstrate again. Like, you put one pick tool right here, you hold it like this, you put the pick tool on the other side, and yep, can crack easily on this case, but push it from the bottom. There you go, and it's not cracked at all. So there we go. Now we'll proceed to, well, of course we need to remove this 10mm bolt that goes to the valve cover, of course. And once again, important moment, this tube, before you do the job, I definitely recommend you to get this PCV tube. There is a valve on the other end. It usually breaks during the removal of the valve cover to replace the gasket or the valve cover itself, and it's just a $60 part, so not that big of a deal to replace it. I'll show you how to remove it, of course, but if it cracks, the thing is, what you can do is you can tape it really tight and it's gonna work, kinda, for a bit. It's not gonna misfire that bad. But, well, first of all, remove the connector right here. Nice and easy. There's a vacuum line along the way, so we'll get this one out as well, of course. There we go. And now let's get to the hard part, removal of this one. I'm gonna be using a couple of pick tools. Simply, what are we gonna do? The bottom, okay, I see the bottom is not all the way attached, so we're using one. You see, this thing moves, it helps us. You can also use the screwdriver. So once I got 3 of them out, you see this one is positioned, the bottom staying out, so basically it's released, so nothing holding it. The way you remove it then, in order not to break, well, we're gonna lose this clamp right here on the pipe, of course. It's an intake pipe, completely loose. And the next thing is right here, of course, we have mass airflow sensor. Just release it. That's where I put my pick tool, right here, and just pushed it out. And this pipe is on the rubber clamp, just like that. So you gotta release that too. Next thing is the most tricky part, and I bet most of the people will break this pipe during this next step. I surely did a few times, of course. Like it's sometimes it's just not possible to keep this one intact. That's why we're getting the new one usually, unless it was replaced recently for the other different reasons. There we go. That's how you do it. You push it. Then the trick is to twist it. You see, you twist the pipe and it releases entirely this thing. So there you go. Ours are, well, this pipe is intact, but I'm gonna be replacing it anyways. Okay guys, you see, this is where the leak is happening, all over the bottom of the valve cover. That's where you can see a lot of oil. This is basically, this one is the early stage, I can say. Usually when it's more, well, when it's heavier leak, it's oily a lot more, but you can see easily that this is not that old of a buildup. And what happens is the oil leaks in here all over the place to the exhaust manifold once again, and it burns and it smokes, and that's how you can tell. Well, of course, it's impossible to show you on the video, but even without the removal of this pipe right here, you can still clearly see where it's leaking if you know where to look. So this is where, also in the back right there, that's the most common spot. So the back corner is usually leaks a lot, and this is it. Let's continue with the removal of the valve cover. So now what are we gonna do is remove this wiring harness, kind of connector. Well, I don't know how to call it, but there's 3 Torx 25 bolts. We only have 2 now. I can see that. One is for the wiring harness right here, for the ignition coils and everything, and the other side, I'll show you how to do that in a sec. Alright, so first thing first, we gotta release this thing, so it's just popping up just like that. Put it right here. Don't forget to put it back. And now we gotta release just, well, let me take this one out, you see, and there's Torx 25 right here. This is where it is. Just need to remove one. In your case, you might have another one on the other side of the wiring, so it's right here. Would be, you see those two. This third one is for this wiring harness. And now, well, of course, we have this thing. It's just better use the pick tool. So we gotta move this one out of the way. It's easier to use the pick tool. On the other side, of course, you probably won't see anything. So now we are able to take the wires out, the harnesses, and what's left is there is this lock right here. If you push over here, so there is a pin right there. What you can do is you can stick your finger in right here, push it, and move it up. You can hear it click. So push. Let's see if I can do it better with the The thing is, like, if you put your finger in there and you move this up, you can hurt your finger. I can guarantee you that. I've done that. Yeah, there you go. So better use the pick tool. And now it allows us to remove this whole thing for the wiring. Okay, wiring comes off. And just let it loose. There's a final piece of insulation right here, so remove that. And now it exposes us finally to the valve cover. So all of that is just to get to the valve cover. And we have Torx 25 bolt right here for the wiring harness. We do have the connection for the oxygen sensors right here. Then the line, it's electrical connector for the boost solenoid. Let's start taking it piece by piece. I will start with this boost solenoid electrical connector. So there we go. Those are the ones that I don't like in BMWs, the wiring harnesses. There we go, it's free now. Regarding the oxygen sensors, you can easily disconnect them. I've seen this confuses people a lot. You see, they are not really possible to mix those. It's a bank 1 and bank 2, of course, and the one has a fully black connector and fully black insides, so they are meant to be together. And the other one is, of course, different. It's yellow, and it's yellow inside, so they're not really possible to mix. So we're just gonna put them aside, disconnect them, and there's a final one right here. I hate those things. This is the most frustrating wiring connector, wiring holder, even not a connector, BMW makes. I don't like those at all. There you go. So yep, everything's out. And now it exposes us to Torx 30 bolt right here to remove this bracket. Torx 30 right here. Now the bracket is out, and we can proceed with removing the ignition coils. Let me show you how to do it. Once again, every time I do that. So ignition coils, first of all, you gotta release this cap. Sometimes it works with just your hand. You can see right here it creates a little gap, and if you push, it releases the connector. There's a lot of times it's not happening, so how you do it with the, it gets tight with a screwdriver, just like this. And even if it creates a little bit of a gap, but you push further and nothing happens, just stick your pick tool or the screwdriver right here and move it side to side a little bit, here and there. There we go. Now, after you disconnected the connector, fully up position of this well, basically cap, and what I do is using the screwdriver, just pulling straight up towards me. There we go. Now the coil is released. What are we gonna do? Remove all of them and get back. So all the coils are removed. Now we're gonna disconnect the fuel injector connectors. The easy way to do it, use your pick tool, it's right here, and put it between the connector and the injector. Just don't break it, even though if you do nothing happens, but still you gently pull, and that's it. And you do this on every single one of them. There you go. And then we remove those 8mm nuts. It's 3 of them in the middle of every pair of the injectors. And this Torx 25, it's a final piece basically that holds this whole wiring in place. Alright, so everything's disconnected. Now we removing this wiring harness. This is where the Torx 25 was, and the other side is on the, it's kind of clip, so you just push it and remove it. You see, and now we are able to remove the whole thing out of the way. Also, I moved those pipes in a different location, so this one I put it right here so it's out of the way, and this one, don't be scared of, this is the way it was, just turn it around, it's movable, and put it right here. That's it, out of your way. Now we gonna free the harness right here. There we go. This one doesn't like to stay in one place usually, but once again they are flexible, nothing happens. So we got this out, and look at this fun part right here. This this thing has to be released, so if you just push it up, because we need to remove the fuel rail and it covers the 11mm bolt, you will break it. Not a big deal, but you don't break stuff, that's why I'm here. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna push it down and release it just like that. You see why? Here at the bottom it has this kind of hook, so this is how you release those things. Once again, you push it down and release and turn. There you go. Now you don't have to break those. Now what we're gonna do is disconnect, of course, the high pressure sensor in the back of the rail and remove the fuel rail. Prepare your paper towels. First thing you gotta do, I'm gonna untie this kind of bolt right here. That's the one of the connectors of the fuel rail. It's a 17mm. Expect some gas to come out for sure. That's what the towels are for. Gas is the thing that vaporizes real quick, so here we go. Not much came out at all. Ah, well, yeah, it's almost empty. And now we going to disconnect the same thing, 14mm from the fuel injectors. You don't need your towel here, most likely. It's gonna leak, it's gonna leak. You can't catch it, basically. They usually tight in the beginning and then just really easy to turn, but there is sometimes when you just gotta turn it all the time. You see, there's some gas coming out. You can try to catch it, but it's basically pointless. Gas vaporizes real quick, really quick. By the time you will be installing your valve cover back with the new gasket or the whole valve cover, all this gas that's coming out will vaporize. You can of course clean it up while the valve cover is out, but you don't really have to. Nothing's gonna happen. The only thing I once saw when the ignition coil wasn't removed and the rail was, the gas got to ignition coil and it just ate the ignition coil. So that's something to remember. You can clean up the area around the spark plugs, but it's usually not happening. It's too deep and it's isolated, so not gonna happen. Now we have 4 bolts, 11mm, holding the fuel rail in place. Just gonna remove them and take it out of the way. So bolts right here, it's 4 of them, and there is something to remember. So here's the bolt, but sometimes they come out with I don't know if you guys can see it, there is a centerpiece made of metal right here, and the bolt can come out with this thing. You see, I can really move it easily, so I'll just push it back. Just pay attention to that. Don't let it slide out and drop it into the, well, behind the intake manifold, and it's gonna be pain in the butt to get it back, but you don't really need to. Once again, the rail is held in place by bolts, not the centerpieces. So yep, two more. Those are probably a little bit more difficult, but because of the harness, but overall same thing. So I'm gonna remove them just the same way. Oh, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. You see, this part just came out with the bolt. Keep it. You'll put it back when you're installing it back. So that's probably gonna happen here too because it's angled. Oh no, actually this one stayed in place. Good, good. And the last one. Nothing else holding fuel rail anymore. I didn't, as you saw, I didn't take those out because there is no point at all. Now we just move this rail. Ooh. The rail is stuck. Oh, look at that. Come on. I haven't seen that in a while. Stuck rail like that. Oh, I see what happened. One of the rubber pieces got too attached to the head. Just always make sure everything is disconnected on the fuel injectors, because those things tend to attach to the injectors even if they completely loose and you're moving. It's just like the thread is there, so they just catch a little bit, so just move them quickly to make sure everything is out. One of the final steps before removing the valve cover bolts is those vacuum lines. I'm just gonna be sticking my pick tool right here, just moving them out of the way. One and another one. There's two. Really hard to take them out sometimes. This one's okay. The other one is kind of stuck. Oh my. You can spray some probably WD-40 on them, because is it easy to damage those lines? Absolutely. But other thing is, if you do, you can always, well, first of all, there's plenty of line to cut it. Second, you can just fully replace it. I think this one is gone. Yeah, you see, there's not much I can do, but what I can do is cut it here and put it back, and it's still gonna reach because there is plenty in here. But you can fully remove it and replace it with the new line, and this is where it goes, right here, you see. So all the way here, replace it. And the other one goes to the brake booster solenoid, so not a big deal either if you cut them. And now the only thing left, we gotta remove the seal from the eccentric shaft, well, actuator and the sensor in one spot. Those are E7 or E6 sockets. Just simply remove those bolts and just pop it off. Now we're going to be removing all the valve cover bolts. There's plenty of them, as you can see. I'm gonna start. The hardest one is in the back bottom corner right there. I'm gonna be using this extension. What is it, like 3-inch extension? You also can, this one is flathead, but you also, if you can find, there's ones in a Harbor Freight, those kind of swivel heads, just like that, so they make the socket move a little bit. Those are the best. I don't have it. I have only this one, so this one stays firm. Gonna do that first. Remove the hardest bolt first. So it's right here. You can basically feel it with your hand, and it's torque specs. Everyone asks about the torque specs for the valve cover bolts. First of all, they usually are on the valve cover itself. Second, common sense makes the most sense. But third, the torque spec is 7-8 foot-pounds. Is just fine, as far as I remember. Not much at all. That's the thing. Once you lose this bolt in the back, all you gotta do is remove it by hand. The back bolt is loose. Takes a while to take it out by hand. Now there's one in the middle in the back. Those are the one kind of easy to reach. The one is right here. I need to see it. I just need to feel it. There you go. There it is. And don't forget the bolts in the middle. There we go. So all of them loose. The other ones are, well, it might seem strange to you, but the bolts at the bottom are not all there. There are spots with no bolts. That's the way it's supposed to be. So we have one right here, one right there, and a couple more here. That's it. That's the whole bottom bolts. And now I'm gonna just take everything out, all the bolts. You don't have to actually remove the bolts. I'll demonstrate. There you go. So it's a fully disengaged bolt, and you don't have to remove it at all. You don't need to try to push it out because it requires force. So it's like they're gonna stay in there. They're not going anywhere. Just do that. If you, of course, replacing the valve cover or the valve cover gasket, I mean, or the valve cover itself, it doesn't matter. There is no need to remove those bolts at all. So I'm just gonna do that and get back to you. The valve cover is loose completely. Now it's time to remove, and it might get hard, so let's try it first. Yep, not gonna happen. Screwdriver. See? There's a perfect spot right here. Just like that. Doesn't matter if you're removing the valve cover and replacing it, or replacing the valve cover gasket. Nothing breaks in here. This is how you go. Nice and simple. And the whole valve cover is loose now. Remember, the bolts like to stick to their threads. That happens. There we go. The whole thing is out. Remember about the sensor. Right here in the middle. Don't break it. So how do you remove it? It's on X5s. It's a bit tricky because there's things on the way. This one and this one. You can, and I think we will, remove at least this Torx 30 bolt in order to make it more flexible, because it's a piece of plastic, so it doesn't do anything. But it's held by 3 Torx 30 bolts. Easy to remove. That's just to make it kind of flexible and let the valve cover slide in and out pretty easily. I'll get this one out too. It's no big deal. Might be not necessarily in your case, like it all depends. So this piece is a bit more flexible now, and it's good. Removal of the valve cover. There we go. Turn. The trick is to go around all the spots and not break anything, just like that. You can slow-mo it to see. There we go. The oil will come out from here and here if you turn it around. As you can see, guys, that's the spot. I mean, of course there's more oil coming out once I lift the valve cover, but this is the most common area for the oil leak. A lot of heat in here from exhaust manifold, catalytic converters, like it's all happening in there. Less here, but because of the angle of the head, you can see it's angled this way. The gravity takes its toll. The oil cannot leak up, it only leaks down, so that's what happens, even though it's under pressure, and there is a possibility that it's going to be sipping here. What are we going to do? Well, of course, clean it all up, make sure it's never happening again. So everything is clean now. One thing I want to point out, clean the shield, this shield, clean it as much as you can, because this is your basically #1 indicator that the valve cover is leaking. It's oil gonna be in here, there, everywhere. So everything's clean now, and let's talk about parts. Regarding parts, what are we gonna do is replace the whole valve cover in here. I got the L-ring valve cover that I will post the link in the description for the valve cover and the valve cover gasket for this job. It depends on which one you want to do. So the reasons, well, let me show you the part first. That's the way the new valve cover comes. So it has all the seals already installed in it. This is once again L-ring valve cover, and it's L-ring valve cover gasket, of course. All new bolts. The only thing it doesn't have the oil cap, which you can take from the old one. I'll put it here for now. The reasons why do we want to replace the whole valve cover and not just the valve cover gasket. One of the reasons can be, but not usually the case with this engine, would be the crack somewhere in this area. It can be along the bolts, here, there, somewhere in this area might be a micro crack, and it's leaking a lot, and the gasket will simply not solve it. But once again, as I said, this is usually not the case with the N55 engine. It's more common with the N20 and 26. So here we replaced the whole valve cover because it has a built-in crankcase ventilation valve, and you might have seen some videos replacing just this top part, cutting it out, replacing the membrane, the spring, like all of that, putting it back, glue it back together. It doesn't really work because the crankcase ventilation valve, it's not just this piece right here, it's everything in here. If you turn it around, you can see where the crankcase vent valve is. It's all right here. Can you cut all these things out and replace it? Not really. What do we have in this case? It's a preventative measure. Well, basically I gave the customer an option, and the option with the valve cover and the gasket replacement, it's not that big of a difference, so we just replacing the whole thing. But you can see easily why it's leaking. So here's the back part. Let's try to remove the seal. Do you see that? Do you hear the cracking? Do you see how it comes out? That's what happens with the seals. So there you go. That's the reason to replace it. But we could replace just the seals and keep the valve cover in place. You can try to clean it up, but in my experience, the replacement of the whole valve cover is just a better choice. So let's install the new one. If you guys installing the valve cover gasket only on your old valve cover, just apply a little tiny bit of silicone on all the corners, on the back, more in the back bottom corner right here, so here and there. That would be 2 spots for sure along the line, because it's very easy for the gasket to slip while you're installing, and with the silicone at least it's gonna be in place. If you're getting a new valve cover, it's gonna be pretty tight in here because the valve cover is new, the gasket is new. With the old valve covers, it's still oily, and it doesn't matter how well you clean, it's still gonna be a little bit of oily and slippery here and there. So just apply a little bit of silicone, but tiny little bit. Just a drop here, drop there, drop here, drop there. The top, you don't really need to do anything, just do one in the middle, then maybe here, because top you can easily see. The idea is to secure the corners that you can't really see and can't really verify if they're sitting right or not. So that's what you got to do. And a little bit here in the middle, but those are easily to see as well. So now we're gonna proceed with installing the valve cover. Same way you're taking it out. So flip it over. I'll grab it in the middle. What are we gonna do? We are going around over there, just like that. The main goal is to go around that spring without damaging the gasket. So pay attention to the gasket, the way it sits and everything. And now, once we've done that, we can slowly push it, and there we go. Now, around the sensor and to the bolt holes. There you have it. Once we've done that, what I want you to do for sure, you might think, oh, everything went perfect. Just lift it here a little bit, take your glove off, feel the gasket everywhere. If it's at least on all 3 corners, the middle, rear bolt, and the top bolt in the back, you're good. Check it along the side, and now when you feel the valve cover is sitting correctly, you probably will feel it. I'm not sure if you do it or it's just me, but there we go. And hand tight all the bolts and we'll torque them down. So the valve cover is bolted on. Everything went perfect, almost as usual. Now the first thing you gotta remember, and I encourage you to do, reconnect the vacuum lines. Easy to forget. This long one goes to the back. It's just it's too easy to forget those, and then you have a misfire and air leak codes, and you're wondering, what did I do wrong? When you simply just didn't plug it in properly. Oh, come on. Alright, so this one goes into the back, and the short one from the valve goes to the front port. That's it. And now the basically we're gonna do everything in reverse. We start with the fuel rail, so we'll install that first and go from there. Here it comes. we put this on first. First of all, yeah, we're gonna definitely connect the injectors, make sure all of them are coming in easily, and the last thing we're gonna do is to bolt on the fuel rail to the head. All of those things should be pretty easy to lock in. Although I've met some cars where you have to use the wrench to bolt them on. It's just the way they are on some cars. This one is a little bit weird. There you go. Just make sure it goes straight, and after that, like, okay, all tight, all good. I mean hand tight, of course. And now we can install back the 11mm bolts. After the bolts are installed, just make sure that all of the connections are tight. Don't go insanely nuts. Just remember how they were. And this one is 17. I already made it tight. That's the time you can put those back in place. The way you do it, you'll see it will go into the hole. There you go, and it locks. And that's the time we can plug in back the fuel rail pressure sensor and kind of route this wiring right here, just like that. And this one goes right next to it, and this one goes right in here. Okay, so basically everything else is putting everything back in reverse. Just don't forget things. So I'll give you guys some pointers how to route everything properly. So we got this one right here. Plug it in. Don't forget, there's a seal here. Then we'll make those lines free now, and I'll proceed with this one. That's how it goes. On the valve cover, you'll see there is a passage there for the wires. There we go. Let's put on the 8 mils. Basically, if you're worried about if you plug something in incorrectly, the wires go the way they always lay. So like we have the fuel injector 1 here, just push it, click. Fuel injector 2 right next to it, same thing. We'll connect the fuel injectors first, then 8mm, and then ignition coils. That's how it goes. When you're doing the 8mm, I recommend you to remove your glove. You don't want to drop this little nut anywhere, because it's really easy, because it's really small. Happens to the best of us. So 8mm are in place. Don't forget to tighten them, because if you don't, there's a real big possibility of a misfire just because of that. And now we can proceed with the ignition coils. Start with the back. Push it all the way down. And very important, push the connector all the way in. You have no idea how many cars I've seen when people, oh, let's say, do it themselves and have 20 different codes just because they didn't plug in one ignition coil fully and been running the car like that for a while. So make sure every coil is fully plugged in. And fully pushed in. There we go. Now what we're gonna do is torque 25 right here. It's time. And remember, this is the new valve cover. It doesn't have any threads from the bolts before, so you'll have to kind of make them, and it can be difficult. This 10mm we will install with the pipe, so don't touch it yet. Let's continue. Now the important part. Don't forget this bracket. That's the way it goes. Torx 30, as I remind you, right here. No thread again, remember that. And remember those wires. We'll start with the weird one for the boost solenoid. Those connectors connect the boost solenoid down here. And now we gotta fish out our sensors. They're right here, not far. See, yellow to yellow, black to black. There we go. All good. And put those back in place where they belong. There we go. And don't forget this little piece. Just goes like that and locks in. This is it. From this point on, I'll put this one back. This is basically it. Now we'll put in the insulation. This the MOX sensor goes in this hole right here, and the insulation goes over this piece, this piece. It finds its way in just like that. We install this one, so put the wires aside. That goes right here. Don't click it yet. First we're gonna install torque 25. We only have one, but that's gonna be enough. a little bit hard without the threads. What you can do, you can make threads before you install the valve cover, but it's not really necessary. And then click it. The wires back in place. This one. In. Now the hardest part in the end, obviously, not during the whole repair, is going to be installing back the pipe with this PCV hose. We're going to be installing the new one, so it's not that big of a deal, but reversal of removal, so you twist it this way, in this case you're going to be twisting this way. I'll just show you in a sec. Let's do it together, guys. So we got I installed the new one, lubricated the O-ring. You might want to do the same. So that's the new PCV hose. So here's how it goes. Go like that. Not that straightforward. It's always hard to navigate those both, but there we have it. That seems to be sitting just alright. Mop sensor, don't forget about that, and put it in place. So okay, next we push the whole thing. Gotta push it in order to click this one in. Gonna be simple even if it's lubricated properly. Tight fitment. The hardest part here is not to break anything. Be patient. If you have the old hose, it's probably gonna go easier since, oh well, new parts fit tight. So we all done here. Took some time, but it's okay. Don't forget to plug in the hoses. And it's finally time to install back the 10mm right here. Once again, new valve cover, no threads. So you gotta make one. And one important part, don't forget to plug that back in. There you go. At this point, guys, we're, I can say, done with this repair. I will be doing something else for another video here, so I'm not gonna put all of it back together, but the rest is simple. You just put back the air filter box. Don't forget to plug those guys in, and then all the plastic and everything. And remember, when you're gonna start the car, because you disconnected the fuel line, it's gonna crank for a while, and then it's gonna start, and it might even misfire at the beginning. But turn it off, start it up again, and you should be all good to go. It's a good idea to not put everything back together. You can start the car actually just like that, even without putting the air filter box in, but I would say just put the air filter box back and start the car. See what happens. You know, if you had a heavy leak, it's gonna be smoking for a while from this area, that's for sure, unless you washed thoroughly the catalytic converter and the exhaust manifold. So unless you did that, it's gonna be smoking 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. Like, it depends on how dirty your exhaust is and how covered it is in oil. So expect that. It's not gonna disappear right away. But after a while, just let the car run for, let's say, 15-20 minutes, and just take a look around the area. If you see any new oil coming out, then that means you did something wrong, or you didn't see the crack on the valve cover, or you pinched the valve cover gasket. One of those things. This is it for the valve cover or valve cover gasket replacement on the E70, E71 X5, X6. Those are exactly the same cars. This year's 2013, 14, 15. 15 X5, 14 X5 are already different, but X5's 2011 till 2013, E70 xDrive 35i, and the X6 starting in 2011 until, I think it's until well, actually they used N55 engine till 2019, so it's pretty much the same repair over there. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you guys for watching. I dropped the links for the parts in the description, and see you guys next time. Don't break the cars.